And for the time being, I'm liking the title Honor Thy Mother for this. Okay. Leon sat up in his bed, wondering where he would hide it. Remembering the way it felt in his hands, the texture of the hand grip against his palm. His restlessness and insomnia were intensified by Leon's trying to remember which one felt the most rigid. He knew for sure he wouldn't grab that one. It's not that a 9mm and a .38 are at all hard to distinguish from each other. They're as easy to tell apart as a banana and a remote control. But it was so long ago that he'd held them that he didn't know which was which anymore. It had been probably since even before he graduated high school. Even though he knew they were in the same place as they always were, completely undisturbed, judging by the angel bird bath he rested on top of where he buried them. But mostly, he lied there, 3:39 a.m., just remembering how they felt in his hands. See, guns are heavy. Well, heavier than they look, anyway. This is a nice surprise when you grip one. When Leon first picked one up, its unexpected heaviness gave him a rush. Much like the type of rush an angry kid gets when he slams his fist into the wall and it gives. Especially in an apartment complex. Dollar store quality drywall. His mom had to add pictures on the wall in the most unattractive places because of Leon's temper. She often did this right after his fits, and right after she'd approached Leon, which she did with two intentions. First intention included her bringing a wet washcloth. Without words, she'd walk up to him, tenderly and gently grab his hands and inspect them for gypsum and blood, and wipe them down whether or not they were clean. And she slowed, as he slowed his exciting breathing, looking around her and the room in confusion. The second intention was merely to stand by his side and prevent him from feeling judged. Even if she was petrified of him, she never let him know it, and never bothered whether he ever would know it. So thus the walls would have an imbalanced picture here and there. One ugly, faded little commercial painting of a Gerber daisy hung on a flimsy nail only 2 feet from the floor. That one was a kick. Another was a picture of Leon and Pup-Up by some swimming pool somewhere. He was flexing his 7-year-old muscles as Pup-Up smiled laughingly. And these pictures in odd places still hung all around the house, even now as he lay in bed, staring at the empty ceiling, painted a dense blue by the moonlight that managed to escape the drapes. He wondered what he would do without her. Rather, what he would do without the memory of her, which he became more and more convinced the world around him was determined to take away from him. His mother had died some 7 or 8 years ago, God rest her soul, but still it seemed as though no one wanted to let her rest in peace. After thinking of this for some time, he looked at his alarm clock again, frustratedly exhaling as he read the stoic red digital numbers that now said 4:18 a.m. He lied back down and closed his eyes for a second, knowing it'd be worthless to try to get some sleep. He heard a car door shut and decided to do some people watching. By the time he got to the window, he barely caught the back of the lady's shoe as she shut the front door of her house across the street. Leon reached under his bed and pulled out the somewhat fancy box. He opened the box and lifted the perfectly folded instruction manual to unveil the binoculars he'd gotten as a Christmas present from Pup-Up. Lifting them out of the box and flaking off little kernels of styrofoam, he turned them on, noticing that the infrared light inside was dimming. After he replaced the batteries, he opened the drape, feeling almost like Malcolm X. He put the binoculars up to his eyes and breathed deeply but softly, feeling omnipotent. These binoculars were a special gift, not the type of gimmicky fake spy stuff that you can order from Sharper Image catalog. No, with these he could see almost everyone within a block's radius. Like the guns, they were heavy, probably because of all the technology stored inside the walls of the lens cylinders. Since everything was pretty much black besides the yellow and red people, everybody looked like they were glowing, levitating corpses. Or auras of people. There was an odd sense of camaraderie he felt between himself and the glowing, dead people. They slept and he did too, well, most nights anyway. Everyone was mostly yellow, body temperatures cooled down by the calm of sleep. He felt disturbed and impressed with the uniformity of it all. All the yellow people horizontal instead of standing upright. As he looked all throughout the neighborhood, which looked like yellow cirrus clouds against a black sky, he noticed one person sitting up on a bed off in a distance. Through these infrared binoculars, the person looked like a dwarf, which Leon knew meant that he was also sitting up in bed. He was pure red, no shade of yellow, which meant he'd either just got done working out or was angry. His body temperature was not cool. The red dwarf seemed as though he was on the completely opposite side of the world, or off in an island and just as isolated as Leon was. Or Leon wondered, maybe the dwarf was some mirror image of himself. Unfortunately, fatigue didn't arrive at all that night. It didn't come to him until the next day at work, where he served as a cashier and stock boy. Even though he was a grown man, he still called himself stock boy when thinking of how much he hated his work and himself for keeping the job. The stock boy title was also a means of condemning his superiors for the condescending way in which they addressed him. Hey, Leon, can you smile a little more? Leon, honey, can you please work a little faster? Leon, it's truck time. No, I can't work a little faster, you blonde bitch. Unload the truck your damn self. How about I buff the floor with your hair, heifer? Often he amused himself. Oh, Leon thought to himself though never saying his thoughts aloud. Often he amused himself by daydreaming about chopping his manager's wavy blonde hair and gluing it to the edges of the cleaning disc under the buffer, which looked like a communion wafer for King Kong. In this daydream, Leon would tie his manager up and make her watch. He'd turn the buffer on and it would look like a smashed Lhasa Apso being pulverized in a blender. He'd look over at his crew-cut manager, saying, Steffi, hun, can you please watch me with a more scrutinous eye? Hey, Steffi, can you please be a dear and fire me for my constant lateness? Can you please set a firecracker in my back pocket so I can work faster in this mecca of overpriced garbage? Oh, that'd be fab. Please give me a reason to lay you down under a stack of heavy boxes. Oh, that would just be swell. He hated her and the world she represented to him, and with his mother gone, he'd been running out of things to love for a long time. Today his manager was being especially sweet, which made it harder for him to hate her.
1 minute.
1 minute. What do you want for lunch, babe? Replaced the usual reminders of his sentence to life in retail without possibility of parole. So even though he didn't want to find comfort in it, he found her kindness to be quite refreshing. In return, Leon asked, you ordering from the Indian place? To which Stephanie, you ordering from the Indian place next door? To which Stephanie replied, ooh, that's a little too crazy for me. I meant from Wawa.